So good morning friend, today we'll be covering 30 December 2017, the Hindu and Indian Express news articles. First article deals with, this is important with respect to prelims, that Hyderabad had introduced a robot police, but unlike the traditional police, this police will be just capturing videos, taking photos. It would be also acting as an interface where citizens can write their complaints. So in all, it has been constructed by, it has been built up by a company named HBots. It's a artificial intelligence based startup. Now, so this is going to be a pilot study. In case if there is a any success in this particular project, then other cities will also be started taking up this particular kinds of robot. In fact, yesterday I was reading that there was an article in Economic Times about 2017 as a year of artificial intelligence. I will recommend everyone to read it. Now, there are two articles that are related to uh, GS1 as well as prelims. Now, Transport Minister has assured that Majuli Islands, which is getting eroded by Brahmaputra, the erosion would be arrested by the central government. And it points out that since 2004, Majuli Island uh, is under various interventions that have been taken by the central government and the state governments in order to reduce. It includes sanitation measure in order to increase or reduce the erosions. Now, what is interesting is Majuli Island is the world's largest riverine island. So, unlike the conventional islands, which are often found in seas, bays, or probably oceans, Majuli is an island that is found within a river. It is on the south side. It is surrounded by Brahmaputra River, and the north side it has Subansiri River. But that island is it's a huge island. In fact, it was made a district also, and it is the one of the few districts which have been very proactive in terms of reducing its carbon out footprints. There had been some discussion that Majuli Island should be declared carbon negative state district. Now, Transport Minister has also launched a service between Pandu, which is in Guwahati, to Dubri. So, for uninitiated, we have a project named as National Waterway. Similar to National Highway, our government is planning to have National Waterway using the rivers, using the canals, using the lakes. The point here is using the inland waterway, we want to reduce the logistics cost of transporting goods across India. So, National Waterway 2, which starts from Sadra to Dubri. Sadra is a point, if you look at into map carefully, it's a point where Brahmaputra enters in plain. So in Arunachal Pradesh, Brahmaputra, it also is being called as Siang River. There, it has a very tough terrain. So it descends down a very high level of Purvanchal ranges, then it comes down. Now, from Sadra to Dubri, we have the area is navigable. So now from Guwahati to Dubri, the work has started, and there was a first vessel that has sailed across. Now this question is important with respect to prelims, that ISRO to launch 31 satellites. So ISRO has already proved its mettle in terms of launching multiple satellites at a time using its PSLV. But again, the failure of IRNS 1H that happened in August, in which when one IRNS satellite was when it was being launched, that PSLV um, it crashed, and these have been one of the few crashes. So now it will be interesting what has been the learnings that has been done. So this flight name is PSLV C40. In fact, for uninitiated, PSLV C37 is the world famous flight that had taken 101 satellites along with it. Now there are two articles that deals with ethics as well as GS2. In fact, there was a question in the civil services mains with respect to civil services effectiveness. So one article is Guljar Natarajan, who is a serving IAS officer, and by Shubra Shubha Rao. Shubha Rao is a retired IAS officer. Now they start with pointing out that PM has given a transformative vision in terms of from changing ourselves from Chalta Hai, which is kind of a passive acceptance to whatever the way the things have been running, to a more proactive, a more transformative, and a deliberate effort to change India and transform India for the development of our country. Now, using this analogy, uh, both the authors point out that IAS has Indian Administrative Services has become the epitome of Chalta Hai, because essentially it is one of the few organization which gains from the status quo. It is one of the few organization and services that over a period of time have internalized this mindset, tardiness, lack of work ethic. So it has become such that citizens have literally lost interest in terms of the government, and they often feel that government department and government services are helpless. So that essentially is being underlined by Chalta Hai. And then both the authors point out that IS services was being when it was being visioned during independence time, then it was thought that IS officers will be executing whatever policies are being taken by the respective governments in 1950s to 1917s. IS was at the forefront in execution of the various policies, and they had been successful also. But since late 1970s, IS started becoming inefficient. It started becoming more dirty, even corrupt, as many individuals who were not so of good ethic, they started becoming prominent, and over a period of time, it built a culture of ineffectiveness. Now, the author points out that Indian Administrative Services still attracts the brightest and the sharpest, and who want to be a change agent. But the moment they come in, they again become somewhat an individual who is part of the culture, who uh, who wants to prevail the status quo. Now, complacency and acquiescence is the stereotypical view of for an IS officer. Now, if IS wants to change it, it needs to change the culture. It needs to change the mindset. It needs to show on the ground that things are being changing. Until and unless something is happening in that front, people will not respect these services. And there's another beautiful article that has been written by BJP MP Varun Gandhi. He points out that conflict of interest is one of the big challenges in any of the democracy, because essentially an individual, when he is serving in public service or public office, there could be a conflict of interest in terms of, at one end, the by taking certain decisions, that individual will be able to propagate. So that essentially creates a problem. And in fact, one of the problems, if if I reiterate what was been written in Subarao's article, one of the problems in Indian civil services and Indian administrative services is the private interest is much ahead of the public interest. Now, Varun Gandhi, he points out how conflict of interest has never been new. It was there even in Britain in 17th century onwards. Uh, So there was a kind of an tacit understanding that an individual, when he is in a high office, if he's using the office for the private gain, there's nothing, no harm in that, because that individual is the authority. But over a period of time, with uh, growing press, as well as by uh, a proactive judiciary, the executive's power and arbitrariness was being curtailed. And over a period of time, by 20th century, the corruption ceased. Now corruption in UK has reduced substantially from the way it used to be in 17th century. So that's what the progress that has been made. But now in India, we are facing a difficult challenge in terms of when an individual wants to really bring something, some changes from the inside. That individual is whistleblower who's pointing out the conflict of interest is often being shown as whistleblower or dissident who oppose who are being termed as anti-growth and anti-investment. Their vested interests have taken over the regulatory bodies, so individuals who are supposed to regulate are often seen in hand in glove. Parliamentary Standing Committee has called for an early retirement for those individuals who want to serve after public services into private sector, and it recommended a cool off period of 5 years so that the undue influence of exerted by the retired bureaucrat does not exist. Thank you, friends.